phone. Just put down the phone right away. If someone is talking to you about property or money, not a single word. If banks, or there's someone you know personally, if you want to address an issue, just go in person, see someone from the bank. I would like to ask you not to talk about money or property on the phone. More questions from the room. I would like to ask the journalists to be as succinct as possible. Yes, we see a young man here, a young gentleman, Children's Editorial Office. Good afternoon, Mr. President. My name is Maxim Zakharov. I'm with a Children's Editorial Office. Recently, you said that sometimes you drive a car across Moscow streets incognito, and when you speak at meetings or right now, you are in possession of a treasure trove of information. I would like to ask you how you get this information about what people really need. Well, I didn't say that exactly like that I drive incognito, that I drive myself. I'm just saying that sometimes I drive without the accompanying police cars and all that. And, these voyages, as it were, are useful because from the car window, it's very interesting to look not just at the road I usually take to get from my residence to the Kremlin and vice versa. It's very interesting to look at different neighborhoods of Moscow. It's interesting and curious to see what's happening around. As far as verified information I get is concerned, I think the most important thing that provides me with that information, well, this is an event like this. Just imagine 2.5 million people have sent their messages and questions to the direct line. Of course, it's impossible to cover all of that and process all of that in the course of these several hours we've got. But, 2.5 million messages. There are about issues that people hold dear to their heart. This will be processed by AI for a year. This information will be processed by my loyal assistants from the Popular Front. This is the front. This is the source of information about what people really need and what they're interested in. And of course, I get information from special services as well as from law enforcement agencies. And I'm trying to use that information not just in an aggregate form to personalize, but also I'd like to see the original documents, and I'd like to meet people, personally talk to them when I have work and visits across the country. It's very important to talk directly to people because it gives a lease of fresh life to what we're doing. You see the needs of the people, and of course, polls by social studies agencies. Of course, people take these polls differently, but mostly these are polls of a professional nature. And of course, sometimes people are not happy with average numbers, with mean numbers, because these figures have nothing to do with what people are facing in real life. But these average data are important because they give us an understanding of what is happening in general across the country. So this is a variety of sources which provide me with a fairly objective picture of what is happening in the country. A couple more questions from the audience. Yakutia, yes, please. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Oleg Kolosov, Saka TV. We represent the coldest place in the world. Right now, the temperature is minus 50 degrees centigrade, The climate is inclement, and in that inclement climate, we highly cherish warmth and unity. 2026 is a year of unity of Russian nations and peoples, and we're all aware that the special military operation is bringing unity. And as a military correspondent, I know that our servicemen are fighting shoulder to shoulder, regardless of their religion or ethnic belonging, and they have this chevron, this shoulder patch, God with us, we're Russian. So what kind of patch would you choose for this year of unity? And next year we're opening a unique center of epos and arts, and also an arts school that is being built at your instruction. We'd like to take this opportunity to invite you. Yakutia is also known for its cinema, and right now a film is being made about a hero of Russia. So we will look forward to getting your support for this movie, as well as for both for making the movie and also what kind of measures will be taken to support different Russian peoples and nations. We pursue a deliberate policy of supporting different languages and cultures and arts of different peoples living in the Russian Federation. We're doing that via school, via media, via literature. You've mentioned several avenues in Yakutia, and the people of Yakutia are very talented. It's no coincidence that a music school is being built there. You know, I was once visited that, and it's developing, you know, young people, young children from all across different settlements and towns and cities get together, and they engage in creativity. Cinematography has taken off in Yakutia as well. Yakutia is developing very fast. Moreover, Yakutia is also providing us with servicemen which are unparalleled across the world, I suppose. And you've mentioned this film, this movie. We will certainly do everything to support that film once it's released, and before, in the run-up to its release. And as far as this year of unity of Russian peoples is concerned, I think this is the right thing to do, especially amid the special military operation, because when a country is faced with such trials and tribulations, it rallies together. And as you aptly mentioned, people, when they are under fire, don't care what religion they profess, what ethnic group they belong to. You know, there's a joke in such situations, if there is a God, and I do not doubt there is a God. But, you know, people are divided in different churches, but that may be very well may be so, but we all share common values, all peoples of the Russian Federation. And in the course of the special military operation, that is something that is getting increasingly to the forefront. We can see that. It's apparent and evident. We see that very well. You know, I just remembered, we have just spoken. The reports on the taking of the city of Seversk. You remember I had a commander of one of the brigades in my office during that report. Once the reports were over, the video link was shut down, and I started to talk about the zone he was responsible for at the front line. We spoke about some daily matters, and all of a sudden he tells me, you know, well, I don't feel comfortable because I'm here, whereas my comrade, head of the very same brigade that is fighting shoulder to shoulder, he is back there at the front line. You and I, we're talking about addressing some daily needs, whereas he is fighting, but he's just as good as I am. And I tell him, who is he? And he said, he's from Dagestan. He's from a small ethnic group in Dagestan. He's a genuine warrior. Russian patriot as well as a brilliant commander. And I said, you know, it's impossible for everyone to be here. You are here because that the commander of the group of armies has decided, but someone needs to stay at the front line. But I say, let's try to give him a call. I took up the phone, and via military connection, we managed to find that second commander of the brigade. He had spoken about, he was at the command point on site. We spoke, and then I passed the phone to the commander of the brigade, who was with me in the office. And you know what's interesting? Among men, there's this cool, you know, when they call one another. But, you know, when real officer says that, it's really something special. He says, hi, brother. Yes, men do call that one another, but, you know, when real military commanders say that, this is testimony to the unity of the peoples, nations of the Russian Federation, who will do everything in our power to strengthen this process and to push it forward. Thank you. Another question from the audience before we get back to our moderators. First row, the blue jacket. Yes, please. Introduce yourself. Vladimir Sarokov, good afternoon. RBC Radio next year ushers in many changes in taxation with a view to mobilizing budget revenue. What's the financial effect you're expecting, and will you relax these restrictions and tightenings once the situation gets better? Yes, this is a very acute issue. We've been discussing it at the government and also at the president's office. And as I said, the most honest way out is an increase of the VAT. Is that what you're asking about? Well, the goals, the objectives are very simple. Our task is to secure a well-balanced budget. On the whole, we've managed to accomplish that task. I've spoken about that to a certain degree thanks to this decision we've taken. As far as that is concerned, there is a number of issues to be addressed. The government needs to pay attention to that, and we spoke about that on multiple occasions. When the tax burden goes up, a temptation arises to avoid paying that tax. In the past, this task was very much widespread. Right now, it's becoming increasingly relevant. We need to dismantle the shadow economy and make sure no one is trying to hide their income from tax. And when taxes go up, we have to make sure that this does not stay on paper. It has to translate into real increases for the budget revenues. I take your hint. Is that going to be forever? No, certainly not. The end goal is to decrease the tax burden in the future, and the government assumes that this is where we're going in the end, and this is what I'm looking forward to. There is a surge of issues from self-employed, from individual entrepreneurs, because there are millions of those in Russia, and changes to taxation are a source of concern for many. We have a question from Denis Maximov from Lubertsy. Let's give him a call via video link. Denis Vladimirovich, if you can hear us, please ask your question. You know, when the prices on fish will be regulated by the government, and when will those be accessible, affordable to the population? You know, price regulation, it's very dangerous, because once we start doing that, the goods will start disappearing from the shelves. In a market economy, this is the result you get very often. Yes, there are certain spheres where regulation is required, is needed. As far as essential medicines are concerned, there is a certain ceiling you cannot go beyond. But if these are regular goods, it's tricky regulating the price on those goods. But you are correct in that fish on the table of Russian citizens is missing. There are certain norms, and so far we are lagging behind those norms. But we have to go a different way about that. We need to improve the logistics. We have to make sure that the fish produce from the Russian Middle East can get as affordably as possible on the table of consumers in the European part of Russia. Transport capabilities have to be enhanced. We also have to address that via taxation. We have to create an environment to make sure that we continue building new fishing vessels. There are many issues that have to be addressed and that have to bring about the result we desire.
Please, if you hear us, ask a question. Hello, Mr. Putin. Hello. My name is Maximov Denis Vladimirovich from Liberty District, Kraskova. We have a family business. It's a bakery. For 8 years, we have a very convenient patent system for taxation. Since the new year, we'll have to pay an income tax and we'll have to pay the VAT. That is why we need an accountant, and this will be additional costs for us. We understand that our country is in a difficult situation. We understand that the increase of taxation is necessary, but I think it would be more useful for the state and for us individual entrepreneurs to increase our patents 2, 3, 5 times. It would depend on the volume of our produce. Well, the situation is difficult. We are not optimistic about the future. Some enterprises will close, some will go into the shadow economy. What can be done about the legislation? Well, this is your bakery behind you. Yes, it is. Mashinka, was it called in honor of someone? This is my eldest daughter. What are you baking there? Is it delicious? Well, I hope so. I hope so. Well, Denis Vladimirovich, regarding the essence of your question, first of all, there was a form of benefits for the small enterprises, what was registered by the government, what was done by the government, especially it regards the trade business and the individual entrepreneurship, small enterprises. The process has started. That means they mean that we use these instruments, these forms of business, for uncontrolled input of uncontrolled black input. That is the problem. It doesn't mean that we should create problems for the production business. I'll pay attention to that, and I'll make the government pay attention to that and the relevant governmental structures. As for the accounting, please do pay attention to the fact that it will not be necessarily compulsory to spend additional money for accounting. Big financial institutions provide different services, banking and accounting services. You could ask, for instance, a Sberbank. They can help you with that. And this will not bring additional costs for your business. It will not bring any additional financial burden for you. But you are right that the production business with the transfer to the new taxation should not suffer. And I promise you that the government is going to face this issue. But anyway, I wish you success. success to your Mashinka, to your daughter, and to your business that has such a beautiful name. Well, maybe you can send us something delicious. With pleasure. On my side, I will work with the government regarding the support of your business and other businesses alike. Thank you. By the way, an important piece of news, central bank reduced the key interest rate down to 16%. So we are moving forward. You know, the central bank is always under pressure. There are many disputes about the key interest rate. The difference between the inflation rate, by the end of the year, it will be less than 6%, 5.7, 5.8, maybe 5.6. And the key interest rate is at the level of 16%. The expert expected a possible decrease by 1%, but by the law, the Bank of Russia is independent. And I try not to interfere into the decisions that they're making. I try to make everything so that they were not influenced from other institutions. But the Bank of Russia does everything necessary, and they're very responsible in their work. In the end of the last year and the beginning of this year, we spoke to the governor of the central government, to the economic bloc of the government. We said that it is necessary to target the inflation and to make the necessary decisions so that the macroeconomy of Russia would be healthy, would be solid, so that the economy of the country had a solid foundation. The difference between the real inflation and the key interest rate is one of the lines of criticisms against the central bank. What is the problem? In reality, there are many problems. One of them is that, as I have already said, I have mentioned it. If not, I will say it now. One of the problems of today is the reduction of the investment activity. During the first 3 quarters of this year, minus 3.1%. But the Bank of Russia registers a little decrease. But the activity, serious continuity, continues in the credit